Hey everybody, my name's Brittany. I started studying the Bible about April 2017, and when I started, I knew nothing about it. It was a lot of information. It was really overwhelming, sometimes even stressful. So I wanted to start a Bible for beginners study. Last week we started with Genesis. We got through Genesis 1 through 9, and with Genesis I'm doing a lot of different sections because it's really important. It's really the beginning of everything, and there's a lot of information that you need to know in it to be able to understand the rest. So this week we are doing Genesis 11 through 23, and we're going to concentrate on Abram, who later becomes Abraham, and his wife Sarai, who becomes Sarah. So Abraham is really important. He is the founding father of Christianity. And he's the descendant of Shem. And then, like I said, he was married to a woman named, I'm not sure if I'm saying this exactly right, but Sarai. And he would travel with her and his father and his nephew, whose father was killed. So he was looking after his nephew. His name is Lot, and he was kind of like a son to Abram. So he and Lot traveled together, and they built their family line and the people that they traveled with, and they became so wealthy. They had a lot of crops and animals and such that they actually had to split into two groups, so that because they just had so much. So Lot went to live in, where was it? Near Sodom, like Sodom and Gomorrah. It was a really wicked place. There was nothing good happening there. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. I'm a little under the weather this week. And then Abram stayed where he was, and Abram and his wife were not able to have children, and God came to him one day and promised him a son. So to fulfill that, Sarah let Abram sleep with her, basically her maid, her caretaker, her servant, and they had a child together, and God named him Ishmael. Then God told Abram, no, you're going to have a son with Sarah, and your descendants are going to be more than the stars in the sky. But they laughed at that because at this time, Abram was 100 years old. They were both well past childbearing age. And Sarah was a very beautiful woman. Twice when they traveled, you'll see in Genesis 12, verses 10 through 20, and chapter 20, verses 1 through 17, Abram actually made her pretend that she was his sister instead of his wife, because she was so beautiful that Abram was afraid that the people there would try to kill him in order to get with his wife, to be able to marry her. So she pretended he was his sister, or he was her brother, I guess. So they laughed at the fact that God said that she was going to have a child, but of course they did, and they named him Isaac. Let's see. So Lot's living in Sodom, and God destroys it. But because Abraham prayed and begged God to save Lot and his family, he did. He sent his angels down to get Lot and his family out of there before he destroyed it, and told them to go and not look back. Well, Lot's wife did not really listen. They were on their way out, and she looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. Not sure if you've ever heard that story. That's one of the bigger ones that people hear a lot of. So that happened in this section. That was chapter 19, verse 26. So now Sarah had Isaac, and then Sarah's servant had Ishmael. And let's see. And then Ishmael had been picking on Isaac, and Ishmael was firstborn, stuff like that. So Sarah asked Abraham to get rid of him and his mother. And when Abraham prayed to God about this, he said, "Do listen to your wife, because your family line will be continued through Isaac." So he sent them away. God took care of them, took care of Ishmael, watched over him. So Isaac became the star of Abraham's eye, basically. And at one point, God wanted to test Abraham, and he told Abraham to take Isaac and go up onto this mountain and sacrifice him. Now, we all know that our God is not one that likes child sacrifice, that asks for child sacrifice. But he did it. He went up on the mountain. He prepared he laid out the wood and such to sacrifice him, to burn him. But before he could light it, God sent an angel down. Stop. And then Abraham looked around, and there was an animal on this mountain to use as a sacrifice. And God said that, "Now I see how much you listen to me, and that you really do trust in me. You really do listen." Let's see. And God said, "Now I know you really fear me." So Sarah passed at 127 years old. And then after this, the next week's story is my personal favorite love story of the Bible. It's not really seen as a love story very often because it leads into other stories, but the next generation would be would be Isaac, Abraham's son, trying to find love. And the way he does that, this is after Sarah's death. Abraham is up there in age. Abraham wanted to make sure that he married the right kind of girl. And so Abraham sent his servant, his right-hand man, basically, to go search for Isaac, the perfect wife. And that's what we will study next week. So, do some research on Abraham. So sorry. Like I said, he's in Genesis chapters 11 through 23. And he is important. He is mentioned several times, even in the New Testament, how he is a father of Christianity. And that's where everything starts. That's where a lot of the covenants start. That's where how the descendants of Christianity, being as numerous as the sand on the beaches or the stars in the sky, begins. It is a huge beginning for Christianity, and covenant with God through him. It's amazing. So next week we will study Isaac and his wife Rebecca, and we'll study Genesis 24 through 37. And hopefully I will feel a little bit better. I hope you could understand me through all this. But everybody have a great week, and God bless.